afternoon and welcome to the afternoon update on Money FM 89.3. We are with you on your radio waves and also joining you on your social media this hour. We're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Good to be back with you, and thank you for tuning in and joining us again this Thursday. I'm Rachel Kelly. I'm joined in the studio, of course, by our wonderful finance producer, Hongbin Jeong.
Hello, thank you for the introduction.
And Raushan, who's sitting to my left, as always, making sure we behave. We've got a wonderful show lined up for you in the next hour or half an hour if you're joining us on social media. Coming up this hour, we're going to be joined by Mathilda D'Silva. She is the founder and CEO of the Ocean Purpose Project. Before we get there, though, Hongbin, I've got a term for you.
Yeah.
Bioremediation.
But how do you spell that?
Okay. So this is the process of decontaminating the sea using marine life in this case, so such as naturally growing seaweed and mussels.
Okay.
That's one of the projects that Mathilda and the Ocean Purpose Project work on.
Yeah.
They also have initiatives that aim to convert plastics back into fuels.
Yeah, I'm very interested on how that works.
I know, right? Because we talk so much about collecting plastics from the ocean. What do you then do with it? You recycle it and you turn it into different types of products, but turning it back into fuel at a time when energy prices are soaring, right? Makes sense. We're going to find out more from Mathilda. She's going to be joining us live in just a bit. If you've got any questions for her, you can drop them in the comments section below if you're joining us on Facebook, or you can drop us a message if you're listening in 8855-0893. As always, I have the studio phone here waiting for you to message me, and I will ask Mathilda anything you want me to in the next half hour or so, okay? And just a quick reminder as well, thanks for joining us. Do like, share and subscribe to our social media platforms. Hongbin's laughing because that's supposed to be her phrase for the week, but I haven't heard her say it once.
There we go. Give me the time of day.
Oh my goodness. Okay, coming up on the show, we're also going to check in on the markets in just a bit. So stay with us here on Money FM 89.3.
Money FM 89.3. Financial updates from the Business Times.
You are listening to Money FM 89.3 or watching us live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Let's check in on the markets for you. Taking a look at the SGX website, the Straits Times Index is still in the red, down 0.24% at 3,254 points. Decliners leading the pack today. And Hongbin, that is on the back of the news that we saw from the Fed overnight. We're going to get to that in a minute, but I know you've also been watching shares of SATs today. What's happening?
Well, SAT shares dropped to a 2.5-month low this morning, and that's after the in-flight caterer and ground handler disclosed yesterday that it is in talks to acquire air cargo handler Worldwide Flight Services. So in a bourse filing yesterday evening, SATs confirmed that it was in discussions regarding the potential deal, but no definitive terms or formal legal documentation, including the deal amount, has been agreed on. So it added there is no certainty that a transaction will materialize. So the counter dropped to a low of $3.87 this morning. That's down 5.1%. And the last time the counter closed near this level was on July 5th. But looking at the counter right now, it's even lower. It's down 5.6% as this afternoon, and it's at $3.86.
What else are you watching today? I know you've been keeping an eye on First REIT. How are shares looking units looking of First REIT?
So the Real Estate Investment Trust announced yesterday that it was expanding its portfolio with 2 new nursing homes in Japan as part of growth plans in key markets. So the properties come with a price tag of 2.6 billion yen, which is equivalent to 26.3 million Singapore dollars, and they have a combined net property yield of 5.9%. 0.2%, and the unit is currently unchanged at nearly 28 cents. And another stock that I've been watching out for is Daiwa House Logistics Trust. So this REIT is looking to acquire a portfolio of 2 logistics facilities and a piece of freehold land in Japan for a total consideration of 4.68 billion yen or 47.7 million Singapore dollars, and that's representing an 11.8% discount to the property's average appraised value. And this is estimated to lift its distribution per unit by about 1.3% on a pro forma basis for the financial period ending June 30th, 2022, and DHLT is currently up 1.5% at 68 cents.
Okay, we're going to take a look at regional markets now. But before we do, I want to say hi to Alden. Thanks for joining us again. Alden has been with us for the past 2 weeks. I feel like we should give you a prize or something, Alden, for always being the first to comment on our social media posts as well. Hello, Alden. Hope all is well with you this Thursday. If you're joining us as well, don't be afraid to say hi. Drop us a comment on social media or text us,
And
8855. Oh,
And share, and subscribe.
she did it, guys. She did it. We got there in the end.
But we do text us at
8855-0893. Okay, so we've also got to talk about where markets are, because markets are feeling the pain, obviously, on the back of the Fed rate hike announcement that we saw out overnight. How are Asian markets responding, Hongbin?
It's all in the red,
Sea of red today.
Sea of red today. It's a pain.
So earlier on the show, we spoke about what this means for Singapore in what's trending. There's a repeat of that coming up in about 20 minutes as well, if you want to hang around and listen to that. But what else does this mean for you and I? Because Powell did say that we could see a recession as he looks to combat inflation.
Right. I mean, if you did miss the earlier what's trending when Rachel did explain to us what it means for Singapore, well, Singapore is a trade-dependent nation, and any change in interest rates in the world's largest economy, aka the United States, it will affect everyday Singaporeans in one way or another. So things like your home loans, investments, and savings, it will all be impacted when interest rates in the United States are adjusted. So, and for investors as well, the interest rate hike is not a great sign, as we've seen in markets today for the stock market as a whole. So, well, more specifically, Singapore's interest rate is largely influenced by the global markets and by the U.S. Fed when it increased interest rates, and as Powell warned that it will continue doing so for the next years or months to come to combat inflation. So as a result, Singapore's domestic interest rate has already risen, and it's expected to rise further in the coming years. So for everyday Singaporeans here, some things to follow is that more expensive homes, personal loans and credit bills, if not paid in time, and the higher cost of borrowing for some companies may also lead to layoffs and retrenchments. And we will also enjoy, and a benefit is that we would also enjoy higher interest rates on savings accounts, Singapore government securities, and fixed deposits if you are a saver rather than a borrower.
Okay, and as we mentioned, this is all to help combat inflation. And there was an interesting article that came up on DBS that highlights 5 things you can do to combat inflation. What did they say, Hongbin?
So 5 steps from DBS. It's that you can, 1, reduce unnecessary spend. I think we've discussed a lot about this. That you got to track and you got to reduce what you don't need, just the necessities. You got to shop smart. And third is inflation-proof your savings. 4th, start investing.
It's never too late to start
never
investing.
Too late, yes.
That's right.
And lastly, increase your income. So this doesn't necessarily mean like, hey, boss, I need a pay raise, but it could be finding ways to earn extra income on top of what you already earn.
Side hustle.
Yeah, side hustle. Like you can be, a private hire driver.
So we did hear that CNBC article that we were talking about yesterday. The gentleman that wrote the article said that he only spends the money that he makes from his side hustle on items that he likes or he fancies. So that's something that you could think about doing. There we go. Okay, that's your market update for now with some inflation tips for you. We've got Sustainable Singapore coming up next.
This is Money FM 89.3, Singapore's most influential radio station. Keeping you company through your workday. Money FM 89.3. Sustainable Singapore on Money FM 89.3.
You are listening to Money FM 89.3. Turning trash into treasure. That is what the Ocean Purpose Project aims to do. It was founded just 2 years ago by Mathilda D'Silva. She's a former journalist, and some of you may know her as a Singapore Idol singer. They have a number of initiatives, and so far they've collected over 4,000 kilograms of plastic. They've planted over 200 seaweed and mussel lines and planted over 125 coral reef stars. To find out more, we're joined now by Mathilda, who is the founder and CEO of Ocean Purpose Project. Mathilda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Rachel. You're hired. She's got all our numbers out there, all the impact outlined. I love it.
That's it. And Mathilda, we actually just caught up 2 weeks ago at an awards ceremony.
That's right. I think it was the GGEF Women's Eco Fund Award. So I was like, whoa, they nominated me, and there's all these luminaries in the same room. So
It was
that
such
was
an
really
inspirational evening, wasn't it?
I love it. Yeah, it was fantastic. I think it's so nice to be among a room of women working in various different sectors. Hearing stories from each other, how everybody has prevailed through COVID. I think it was something that I would love to attend a bit more frequently too. Just for the dinner part and the sharing part, no?
The sharing was,
the award was
the
nice.
conversations that were taking place, it was absolutely fantastic. And that leads us on to the conversation that we need to have with you now in terms of what you've been doing with the Ocean Purpose Project. But let's read, Mathilda, how did this come about?
Great question, Rachel. I think, a lot of people would recognize me from Singapore Idol or being a TV producer. I used to dragon boat as well. So I was representing my country in a race in Boracay, the Philippines, over 3 days. We won a lot of medals. We basically had a great party. But when I came back to Singapore, I was hospitalized and I developed autoimmune conditions. So my hair turned white. It's now dyed black. I'm wearing makeup now, but my face and my skin is half white and half brown. I developed vitiligo. I also developed a problem with walking and sometimes speaking, which is not great if you're a Singapore Idol or you're in front of the camera, you are sometimes. It's a bit difficult, having all of these things happen to you. And only in 2018, a friend of mine showed me an article that said that, they were going to close Boracay, the island, because, it was discovered that they had been pumping raw sewage, chemicals, and all forms of waste into the touristic beaches that earn them billions in tourism revenue. And it was a big shock for me because I was like, what? What do you mean? I was just exposed for 3 days. How can that have completely changed my immune system? And that's really what spurred me on to realize that, okay, yes, this is unfair. This has happened to me.
Yeah.
But what about the millions of Southeast Asians who live by the coastline, who are exposed to polluted oceans on a daily basis? Most of all, children who are feeling that polluted plastic and polluted oceans are normal, right? And so this is where Ocean Purpose Project began. But I didn't want it to just be something that raises awareness. I wanted us to move. We do beach cleanups. I wanted to do more than that, which is also why we do the projects you mentioned, such as plastic to hydrogen. And we also do things such as using seaweed and mussels to protect fish farms in the north of Singapore, but to also turn that into a new form of 100% biodegradable plastic.
Okay. Pause. Mathilda, let's rewind, because I just want to pick up on that point that you made about turning plastics into fuel. Because often on the show, we talk about the amount of plastics that there are in the ocean. We had Paul Foster on last Friday talking about the All Clear initiative as well, and he shared some phenomenal numbers in terms of the amount of plastics that that project has collected. But then you often wonder what happens to these projects. Are they these plastics? Are they recycled? What are they used for? But in a time when energy prices are so high, the concept of turning those plastics back into fuel, I mean, it makes sense. But how does it work? What are you doing?
Okay, so maybe if I can share a little bit more about the chemistry behind the work that we do. Ocean Purpose Project is raising funds to build the OPP PTF unit. Now, really, what
Okay.
that is a chemical recycling unit that is mobile. You could park it next to a landfill, you could put it next to a polluted ocean community, and it's able to convert ocean plastic into hydrogen and other forms of solid carbon. Now, imagine this. Let's have a think about the numbers. We're talking about billions of tons of ocean plastic that no government and no NGO or no company is interested in claiming. What do we do with that, and how do we turn that into the fuel of the future? It's actually possible for us to be able to extract up to 97% of hydrogen from plastics in a lower cost method with even lower CO2 burden. I mean, imagine, right? Just this last year, the value of the hydrogen market was USD $129.85 billion. We are even having countries that are exploring hydrogen as a form of fuel for trains, right? Where even I think in Japan, there is a fantastic example of how the world's first hydrogen hotel was launched in Kawasaki City in 2018, where about 30% of the hotel's energy needs are actually taken from waste plastics generated by the patrons of the hotel and turned into hydrogen. And that's where 30% of their energy mix comes from. So I don't think we are too far away. I must also caution and say that the science requires a massive amount of collaboration from the researchers in various institutes, from petrochemical companies, from hydrogen specialists, even from the plastics and the polymers industry. We kind of have to move away from, all of the feel good campaigns and get into the science and the operationalization of these kinds of projects.
So, Mathilda, you mentioned that you're raising funds for this. Where are you now when it comes to this particular project? What's happening?
Well, we're going to be raising our funds in November. That will kickstart all of our fundraise efforts. Ocean
Okay.
Purpose Project will be speaking at COP27 together with the Singapore Pavilion. We're really thankful that Prime Minister's office is selecting our little solution as a possible way for us to share with the rest of the world how we can actually clean up our oceans and turn that into energy and water.
That's phenomenal. And speaking of energy and water, you mentioned that it was the pollution and the contamination that you experienced that led to the condition that you had that then went on to lead to you starting up Ocean Purpose Project. And I know that you work on another initiative, just to kind of fast forward, because there's a lot we need to get through with you. And that is you work on seaweed lines, mussel lines to clean up the oceans. How exactly does that work, and what do you do at Ocean Purpose Project?
Well, right now I'm cleaned up good, but usually on any given day you will kind of see me in my OPP t-shirt, floating on a kelong somewhere, talking to uncles in a mix of English and Hokkien, basically deploying our seaweed mussel lines. So to share with you, in the north of Singapore, where I'm from, Pasir Ris, we have close to 60 fish farms that flank, the entire town. Now, this beach town also has a magnificent array of seaweeds, close to 20 species. And some of them, through our work with James Cook University, we've also discovered that some of them are not existent in a DNA library, which could mean one of two things. Either one, our research methodology is flawed, or second, we're discovering new species in this town. Now,
So
why
there's
is
a
this
Mathilda
important?
D'Silva seaweed out there soon.
That'll be the best birthday present. But they absorb all of these chemical pollutants at sea. We make these curtains around the fish farms. And of course, that cannot be consumed. So, what can we do? We can actually turn that into bioremediation products and services, such as, I don't know, a plastic bag for passeries that is made out of 100% seaweed and mussels. Now, I'm pretty sure any auntie or uncle, right, will not be complaining about having to pay 20 cents for a bag that has a picture of our Kelong uncles on the front with two thumbs up saying, "Thank you for supporting me." And knowing that every plastic bag that they use or bioplastic bag that they used was actually helping our oceans. And not just that, also absorbing carbon from our seas and potentially helping to fight climate change. I mean, that's worth a 20 cents, I think, right?
So, are these bags currently in production or what's happening?
Not yet. It's been really difficult for us. We started and then COVID hit. And so it's really about us slowly trying to find our feet. Everything is opened up this year. This is also where, at the end of last year, was when we worked together with our Kelong partner and fish farm partner, Uncle Heng or Mr. Heng, where we've secured his entire Kelong with seaweed and mussel lines. Now it's about coming to a growing stage. Now it's also about measuring water quality, doing that assessment data, putting together, some quick takeaways from that, and then moving towards the next stage of the production of bio remediation materials.
Now, there's another project that you're working on that's really interesting as well. And I mentioned one of the stats here, and that is that you've planted 125 coral reef stars. I'm just taking a look at your website. It's oceanpurposeproject.com. And you talk about the benefits of coral restoration. Where are you doing this? It's not in Singapore, but perhaps you can talk to us about how you got into this particular project.
Well, when I was a TV producer, I made a documentary about a company called Living Seas. And, the dive master from that company is called Leon Bui. We became good friends. And as COVID hit, Leon had actually been in Bali and he got stranded in Bali. Oh, what a place to be stranded, right? During COVID.
I know somebody who
Really
would like to
suffered.
be stranded in Bali. Yeah.
To be honest, I'm making light of it, but it was really tough. There were in the area of Padang Bai, where his operations are based, there were no boats going out because no tourists, of course, right? And so Leon was like, Matilda, I must alert you to something that's happening in the waters of Bali. There is indiscriminate trawler fishing that is just scooping up everything on the seabed. It's leading to seabed desertification. And he said, can you help me on this project and raise awareness on his 10,000 Coral Reef Stars project? And so I'm very glad to say that OPP has been one of his strongest supporters, in trying to, create these coral reef stars which interlink with each other, and they will jam up any of these trawlers that are trying to remove all of that seabed. And it's bringing back corals as well as other forms of ecosystem to the area. Aside from the fact that it's improving the marine ecosystem, Leon's boats during the past 2 years were the only ones that were giving employment to the people in Padang Bai. And of course, Living Seas is a Singaporean company. So I'm really glad that we are partnering with our, sister Singaporean company to deliver that change and to pivot a lot of Indonesians in that town who traditionally would have been working for the trawler fishing companies or even for dynamite fishing and saying, come on, guys, there is work in sustainability. There is work to protect our corals, and we can do this and balance purpose and profit together. So I
I
must also
love
give
that.
a shout out to Leon and the Living Seas crew because they did exceptional work in educating and in being on site and driving that.
And that's one of my favorite phrases as well, balancing profits with purpose. Very quickly, Matilda, before we let you go, Hongbin has a question for you.
Ah.
Yes, I do. So that was a great, inspiring rundown of what you guys do. So how can our listeners, including me, get involved?
Thank you very much, Jangmin. You can actually log on to our website, oceanpurposeproject.com. Doing a beach cleanup with us helps to fund our operations. Reaching out to us, all the details are on our website and on our social media. It really helps us to further the mission. Really what we are trying to do is to put the coastal communities, especially the poor coastal communities, first, giving them the kind of tech, the kind of solutions that empower an entire community and not just solve one problem, which is maybe plastic pollution at sea. It's an ecosystem of solutions. So, everybody from an orang laut to a marine researcher to, even people who work in petrochem and oil and gas companies, we require all of that brain power to come together and ideate innovative projects and solution engineer. Time is done for looking at the problems. It's very important that we take action and take action in very measured ways. That you can measure the KPIs, you can measure the impact, and do it real time. So, I think these are things that we drive. And if anybody is excited about taking action for our oceans, just reach out to us on our social media and on our website, oceanpurposeproject.com.
Wonderful. Well, Mathilda, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today to share with us all about all the exciting initiatives that you're working on at Ocean Purpose Project.
Thank you, Rachel. And thank you so much to Money FM 89.3. Keep it right here.
That's right. We've been speaking with Mathilda D'Silva, CEO and founder of Ocean Purpose Project here on Money FM 89.3. Thank you to all of you for joining us on social media. We've still got another half hour left of the show on the radio, so do tune in for that. Prime time, of course, coming up at 4 p.m. as well. We will be back with you tomorrow on Facebook at 3 p.m. We're going to be joined by the one and only Adrian Pang. Stay tuned.
Money FM 89.3. Money FM 89.3.